Welcome, children. Welcome to the poem Daffodils by William Wordsworth. This poem is known by another title also, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy were returning from their friends, from his friends actually, and they saw a large number of golden daffodils growing on the bank of a lake in Lake District in England. They both were astonished by the beauty of those daffodils, which were fluttering and dancing with this light breeze. He was inspired by this delightful spectacle, and then he composed this poem. It is a 24-line poem. It describes the beauty of these flowers waving in the breeze. The title Daffodils is a simple word, and if possible, it's really worth learning the lines. So simple, and when you read it, you really enjoy it. This word daffodils reminds us of the arrival of spring, when you find daffodils everywhere. These daffodils are actually yellow flowers, and they have an amazing shape and a rich fragrance also. These daffodils symbolize the joy and happiness of life. So let us see this poem. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Such a beautiful poem by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud. The poet is wandering alone from one place to another like a cloud. He compares himself with the cloud. Wander. What does wander mean? It is to walk slowly around from one place to another without any particular reason, any sense of purpose, or any direction. He was also moving in the same manner, which flies over valleys and hills. Who he, the poet, considers he considers himself to be a cloud and how the clouds move in the sky. In the same way, he also is moving over the valleys, float on high over vales and hills. What is floating actually? To move very slowly on water or in the air. So he says that as the cloud floats in the air, same way here he says he also is moving just like a cloud. How the cloud, just like a cloud, which flies over the valleys and hills with the flow of the wind as they move the clouds. He also is moving. When all at once I saw a crowd, all of a sudden, he saw a large number of golden daffodils. As I told you, they are yellow flowers, crown shaped, you can say, like a trumpet. And they also belong to, I think, lily family. These daffodils are growing close to a lake and under the tree. He saw a host of golden daffodils. Host, a great number of golden daffodils. Gold color is yellow color, you can say, isn't it? So golden, yellow color flowers beside the lake. Where were they growing? They were growing close to the lake, beneath the trees and under the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. A light breeze was blowing, making these daffodils dance and flutter with the breeze. Imagine you go out on your weekend, you go on a long drive, and there's a lake at a distance, and there near the lake, so many trees growing. And near the lake, just under the trees, you find some yellow colored flowers. So many beautiful flowers. And when the breeze is blowing, this makes the flowers to dance. The movement is said to be just like dancing. When the movement is good, it seems to be dancing. Smooth movements, just like dance. So the poet describes how he walked around. He felt as lonely as a cloud. You may put a question, are clouds lonely? Really lonely? Well, maybe the ones that float above valleys and hills are lonely. It is a way to project his own loneliness, how he is feeling on the name of clouds. It's more likely the cloud could be lonely because it flows over the natural landscape where nobody is there at times. It so happens that where nobody lives, there also these clouds move, an uninhabited place. He uses the word host, crowd, both uh, give the same meaning. We can say that he was walking in a remote area, not in the city. You can say countryside, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Fluttering suggests flight, like the birds or the butterflies flutter, how they move. Dancing in the breeze Dancing is a word generally used only for human beings. The daffodils are given the qualities of humans, that is personification. Personification, as I told you in the previous class also, that is to give the human qualities to any other object. Here, the movement of daffodils is said to be dancing. So dancing can be done by human beings. So they are personified. So daffodils are given the qualities of humans and also some kind of other worldly creatures also what they do. So here fluttering means just like small, quick, light movements. So here uh, the flowers seem to uh, move in a very elegant way. If you see this stanza, I wandered lonely as a cloud, the very first stanza. The first line presents the use of personification and also simile, both. The poet says he himself is a cloud who is floating in the sky. How? As lonely as a cloud is, he also is the same. So when you use as dash dash as, like dash, so you're comparing yourself with something else similar. So simile is there, personification is there, both are there. When he says I, poet as a cloud, he looks down at the valley, the mountains, and it's a personification where an inanimate object, cloud, possesses the quality of a human being. It's giving the chance to the cloud to see the daffodils. So here, the poet himself is equal to cloud. He says, I am just like a cloud moving, personification. And then at the same time, he feels just like a cloud. I'm able to, I'm lonely, he feels. Then we move to the next stanza. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The daffodils stretch along the shore in one straight line. It's not really straight line, but they are there on the margin. They seem to have no end. In fact, the poet is comparing the density of the daffodils to the density of the stars that form the galaxy, the Milky Way. Continuous as the stars. Can you say now, this is the end of the star, this is the last star? No. As much you keep on looking everywhere, you find only stars and stars. And they never seem to end. In the same way, the poet compares the density of daffodils to the density of stars that form the part of this galaxy, the Milky Way, that can be seen shining in the night sky. Where are they? They are next to the lake. The poet thinks that at a glance, he is able to see as many as 10,000 daffodils. Do you think he has counted those? No. He has not counted them. But when he says one number, he means to say they are large enough. huge in number. That's all. And all of them seem to be dancing and in a cheerful and light-hearted manner. The flowers seem to stretch without a break, and they seem to stretch so far as the eyes can see. Never ending means as far as the eyes can see, you can see only daffodils. The flowers toss their heads while dancing in the wind. They seem to move their head. The flowers would move like this only. So again, we find in this stanza the use of simile. Daffodils look like the twinkling stars on the Milky Way. So in this way, the poet is trying to connect nature with the universe. He uses the words dancing, host, crowd. All these words he uses to describe the daffodils. All these words also bring to mind the human qualities. So the poet also has described them with the crowd of people. He finds them just like a crowd. He finds that they are tossing their heads in sprightly dance. He finds that they are dancing in excitement. Is again use of personification. Daffodils are tossing their heads like humans, expressing their emotion of happiness through dance. So when the more we read these lines, we should be able to visualize the whole scene. How beautiful it is. I wandered lonely as a cloud. I, in this extract, refers to the poet. He's wandering aimlessly, and he compares his movement to the lonely cloud. As the cloud wanders aimlessly, it doesn't have an aim. Cloud, yes, today I should go to this place and then start raining. No such thing. As the breeze, the wind takes it, it moves. Same way. He also is moving aimlessly. And all of a sudden, his attention is drawn towards the beautiful golden daffodils. What is attracting him there? If you see one flower from a distance, okay. But when you see a crowd, host, growing large in number, a thick growth, large in number, and their movement with the breeze, the movement is a joyful one. This gives a great joy to the poet's eyes and mind. Can you also recollect any kind of picture which comes to your mind if you try to recollect? Maybe you have been on a journey to some place and there you saw a scene which you cannot forget, a beautiful scenery, a sunset, a sunrise, waterfalls, flowers, anything. When and where does the poet find the daffodils? If you put this question, he finds the daffodils by the side of the lake, under the trees, isn't it? And Do you find this, the way he expresses his expression is good enough to convey his joy, his experience at the sight of daffodils? When he uses the word fluttering and dancing, how he describes the movement of the flower is so quick, light, and graceful. Through these words, he wants to say that the movement of the daffodils is very quick, light, and very graceful. Did this experience of seeing the daffodils have a lasting effect on his mind? Yes, surely. It has a lasting effect. We find the poet uses fluttering and dancing for the daffodils in the first stanza. The second stanza, he again expresses the movement of the daffodils. And what does he say there? He says they are tossing their heads in a lively and energetic dance. In both the extracts, both the stanzas, he expresses that. And he says, the flowers are stretched continuously without a break, like a never ending line of stars in the Milky Way. Here also, the flowers seem to be the same. Is it really never ending? No. When he is not able to see where the end is, he feels it's never ending. But there will surely be an end there. It's not really never ending, but they will surely be there. But he feels, because as far as he can see, he doesn't find any end to the large number of daffodils. He compares the continuity of daffodils with the continuity of stars. He compares the continuity of daffodils to the continuity of stars. He finds that the land is never-ending line of daffodils he finds along the shore on the land. They're bordered by the trees on one side. On the other side, they are bordered by the lake, the edge of the lake. So let us see what happens then. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the shore to me had brought. The waves in the lake, besides these daffodils, were also dancing in the wind. But in comparison to the daffodils, the waves are not in glee. That feeling of happiness is not seen. The feeling of happiness is seen more in the flowers. The movement in the water, the small waves which are formed in the water on the surface, that is said to be dancing. So here flowers are dancing, other side even waves are also dancing. But whose dance is better? The dance of flowers is better. The waves express joy, but the joy expressed by the flowers was greater, he felt. Watching such a beautiful scene, the poet feels so happy. The poet continues to look at the daffodils and he thinks it's a great scene which I can never forget. The waves, although they dance in the breeze, but the daffodils are happier than the waves. The dance of the waves does not bring much joy to the as the flowers can bring. They outdid the waves in their happiness. Who outdid? Who performed better? Outdid means performed better. Who performed better? The two are dancing. Waves are dancing, daffodils are dancing. Who performed better? The flowers performed better than the waves. The flowers and waves feel like companions to him. To him refers to the poet. And he is happy in their company. And he looks, I gazed and gazed. He was going on looking continuously at that sight. And the poet thinks that he has fully appreciated the vision at that time. That is the reason today we are able to read this poem. If he had not written, we also would not have realized how beautiful the sight is. This is all because he has written it. The poet, who is in the high ground from where he can see the flowers touching the margin of the bay, and he can see as far as his eyes can see, he sees only the flowers. The poet has not really counted those flowers when he says 10,000 I saw at a glance. He wants to say they are huge in number. And he uses the word, he says, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Their heads. Here he considers flowers as persons. Who considers? The poet considers flowers as persons. They're standing on the field and dancing. Again, it's a personification. When he says sprightly dance, they're very cheerful, dancing with great energy. The poet is really thrilled on seeing such a beautiful scene, daffodils dancing. He's in a pleasant and cheerful mood. But when he tries to compare the daffodils with the waves are, you can say, the ripples in the lake near the daffodils, he finds that the flowers have danced better than the waves. If you consider, there are two actors. One is daffodils and the waves. Both of them are dancing, but who danced better? The daffodils are better in their performance. That is what the poet feels. And the poet is presently in the company of daffodils in the field. Why does the poet say that he had only one option? The poet says that he had only one option, that is to be happy, joyous in the company of daffodils, because the atmosphere around, the presence of dancing flowers, they produce immense pleasure and happiness to him. He has to be happy, that's all. There's no alternative for him. In the beginning of the poem, we find that the poet was feeling little lonely. But now present, he's very cheerful. He's so happy when he sees the daffodil flowers. He's so much fascinated by the sight of the daffodils that he could not take his eyes off for it for a long time. He doesn't, he says, at times I don't realize what riches he was carrying with him from that experience. He feels that it is a permanent kind of happiness he received from that experience, and that is the wealth he considers. And when did he realize that it is a wealth? Only when he left that place. While he was while he was in that place, he did not realize. The poet here is in a reflective mood of the worth of past experience. He's serious about things. And then, for oft, when on my couch I lay in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. The poet says that whenever he lies up, he lies down, either thinking about something or not thinking also, when he'll just lie down uh, in your house in a relaxed way, that image of daffodils flashes upon his imagination. And when does this happen to him? Especially when he is alone. These images have a magical effect on the poet. Often, he is comfortably sitting on the sofa, you can see. His mind is not filled with any activity. When he's deeply thinking about something, pensive mood, especially when you're sad or worried, you're in a deep thought that time. His heart is filled with pleasure when he recollects the scene. At that time, the poet also feels like dancing with the daffodils. Now, the poet is trying to tell us that how these daffodils were such a great gift to him. Because when he is alone, when his mind is not occupied with any other thought, the picture of dancing daffodils comes to his mind. Mind's eye, inward eye, he says, mind's eye, not the physical eye, what he sees. The mind also has an eye, no? There, the expression of joy returns to him. The inward eye which he expresses, he felt it to be deeper, true spiritual vision he finds. One cannot share his or her spiritual vision with others. So it is a form of solitude, he says. But that is the truth. It makes you happy. The memory of these flowers, this lake, when it comes to his mind, he feels happy again. His mind also dances along with those flowers. Again, they are his cheerful companions once again. It happened only once, but whenever he recollects, again it happens the same. He feels very happy. We find that there's a sudden change in him when he witnesses these daffodils. He does not realize what is the value of this sight, what store of happiness this has created in his mind. Only when he lies down in a very thoughtful situation, in his inward eye, in the mind's eye, you find this picture comes to his mind. Here, the poet is trying to express the words vacant and pensive when he says, there are two experiences together, are unpleasant and dissatisfaction also is there at the same time for him in his mind. They flash upon that inward eye, he says. They stand that vision, what he has seen, the beautiful sight of the dancing daffodils, which he has seen at the lakeside. The inward eye, they flash upon that inward eye. The feeling, the deeper and true spiritual vision he had when he wandered like a lonely cloud. That vision which he had pleases him and comforts him when he's all alone, when he's gloomy, when he is restless. This occupies him, this vision occupies. A person, when he is in solitude, when there is nobody around him, he's all alone, he gets the chance to think about something else. When somebody is there in front of you, surely you'll be busy talking to them. When nobody is there, you're all alone, you think of the thing, past activities. There's an opportunity to think of things. In this poem also, the poet says that he's either busy thinking or not thinking about anything. And that time he is reminded of daffodils. He says that the loneliness becomes lovely if he thinks about the daffodils in his loneliness. He starts feeling happy. He's at peace with himself. When does this happen? Only when he is all alone. What he has seen, he is able to recollect. His inward eye brings up the experience of the beauty and happiness of his walk to the lakeside, which was full of daffodils, to his mind. His heart is filled with pleasure. And we see that the poet compares these beautiful flowers with dancing waves. There are said to be two actors, the flowers and the waves. Shining and twinkling stars. So he compares the daffodils with dancing waves and shining and twinkling stars also. He says, and dances with the daffodils. What dances with the daffodils? The poet's heart dances with the daffodils because when he is in solitude, the beauty of the vision of daffodils comes to his mind and makes him very happy. They flash upon my mind. They flash upon that inward eye. The daffodils. The whole scene, what he has seen, that delights the poet. That great number of daffodils fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So in this way we find the poet uses the past tense in the first three stanzas and he uses the present tense for the last stanza. In the first three stanzas, he tells us what happened once when he wandered lonely as a cloud. And in the last stanza, he recalls and reflects on the past experience. So in this way, we find this title, Daffodils. Although it seems to be very simple, is very apt. As I told you, they are yellow flowers having an amazing shape, just like a trumpet, with beautiful fragrance. These flowers symbolize rebirth and new beginnings. the joy and happiness of life, coming of spring because it is one of the first to bloom after the winter frost. The theme of the poem, nature's beauty and its ability to heal and uplift the human spirit. Many times we fail to appreciate the wonderful nature. We are busy in our daily routine, and here we find that in such situation, the poet, when he comes across those beautiful flowers, he looks at him. We should have that, each one, just like the poet, should have the attention. We should see the beauty of the nature and enjoy it. The theme of the poem, Daffodils, is also a collection of human emotions which inspires nature, which is inspired by nature, which we don't notice because we are all the time busy with in our own world. The arrival of daffodils in the month of March is welcome and is an enjoyable time to appreciate them. So, in this way, we find that there's use of colors also in the poem: white for cloud, green for hills, blue for lake, silver for stars, to make it more colorful, to make the poem more colorful. The poem starts in pessimism, author's loneliness, and it ends in optimism, pleasure of watching daffodils. He is not able to resist himself from participating in the dance of daffodils. And he makes us also enjoy the poem. Okay, children, that's all for today.